some of you are not going to college, and that's fine as well. I'm neither pro-college nor anti-college, or con college, I guess it should be. But I'm for using college as a strategy or a means to a particular end. And so we'll talk about today the end for which you should use college, meaning not the end in time, but the goal for which you should decide whether or not you're going to use college. And those of you who are not going to use college, you need to go through a similar process of deciding what it is you want to do. And you may not have that totally figured out, and there's time to think about those things. But what your goal is and what are the steps to get there and what the costs in time, energy, money, and resources are. And so there are two reasons for which you should go to college. And this applies to not going to college too in many ways as well. And part of these two things that I'm going to talk about can be applied outside of college in many cases, and sometimes you have to go to college to get these two things. Okay, but I'm not going to talk about those two things yet. We'll put that aside. And first, before we talk about this, I want to talk about Aunt Becky. You guys remember Full House and Aunt Becky? And Full House, is a popular TV show. I was young growing up. I liked it as a kid. I still like it now. You guys probably grew up with it as well. But Aunt Becky's name is not actually Aunt Becky. Remember, she married Uncle Jesse on the show and everything. Okay, became a permanent part of the show. Was on it, pretty much from the beginning to the end. Aunt Becky's name is Lori Loughlin, and she has a family and all that. She's not really married to Uncle Jesse and all this stuff. But a few years ago, she's a very wealthy and successful actress. Has a husband and two daughters. Her daughters are about, there's an older one and a younger one by definition. And her daughters are around your guys' age, if not a couple years older. Now, Aunt Becky got caught up in a legal and ethical scandal a few years ago. She wasn't the only one participating in this, but she got in trouble for basically using tens of thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of dollars to bribe people who were in charge of admittance into USC, University of Southern California. Aunt Becky's goal was to try to get primarily her oldest daughter, but ultimately both of her daughters into USC. Now, USC, sure as you guys know, very prestigious, well-known college, major football team as well in terms of college football, and also about $50,000 a year. It's actually probably more than that now. $50,000 a year for 4 years for a bachelor's degree. That total, just in tuition, if we just take that amount, comes out to $200,000 for a bachelor's degree. USC is an expensive private university. I think it's private. Anyway, now Aunt Becky and her family could afford it. They could easily afford to send both of their daughters to USC for $50,000 a year. USC is fairly selective, though. But unlike most people, Aunt Becky's family could afford to send her daughter there. Now, what Aunt Becky did was, allegedly, is to bribe the people who were in charge of accepting people into the university. And she faked information about her daughters being on a particular sports team, a rowing team called the crew team, to make it more likely that they would be accepted into this university. Now, ultimately, she got caught, and she and many others who were involved in this type of situation got in a lot of trouble, legal trouble as well. So she took an incredible risk and spent tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to do this, just to get her daughter or daughters into USC. But why did she do this? Why in the world would somebody who could, because this is just strange if you think about this, she and her husband could afford to send them there. So it wasn't that they really needed to go to college and there was just no other way to afford it. And therefore, out of desperation, she faked this information. She not only could afford it, but she could afford bribes to pay the admissions officer. So more than $50,000 per year. But then this story gets even stranger. Her daughter was actually a successful influencer personality, and nothing against that. I don't care. But her daughter was already making some money through some monetized, I think, YouTube and Instagram things, and had deals with Sephora and was talking about makeup and had all these things going for her, and was already generating a ton of money for herself. And some statements that the daughter made indicated that she was not really interested in college. She was interested in the experience and the fun and the parties and that type of stuff. But it wasn't like she was saying, yeah, you know what, because I can afford it because of my parents, I would really like a degree in Russian literature. And I just love to learn that or something like that. That would have been fine. But she said, yeah, the college thing kind of isn't really for me. But so she wasn't even that interested in it. And it's not like she was saying, okay, I really need this degree so that I can get a good job and become an elementary school teacher, or go to some sort of business, have a business degree, or earn her MBA and work in a Fortune 500 company or something like that. She was doing fairly well for herself on her own financially, not that interested in college, and didn't really have the desperation for a degree that would certify her to do the things that she wanted to do. So what was it why did they do that then? If you can afford it, and if the degree isn't really that important in terms of learning new skills or becoming certified, then what could they possibly be getting out of it? Well, I submit this as my explanation. I could be wrong. Lori Loughlin could, call me up on the phone and tell me I'm totally incorrect on this, but I'm still waiting for that call. I think for the parents, what they were hoping to get for their children out of it was status. That the degree from USC was not skill or certification, but status. What the daughter, or daughters, I think, were hoping to get out of it was maybe somewhat the status of having a degree, but also the fun of going to USC, partying, football, drinking, and maybe some classes along the way, friendships, different things. And all that's, and having fun in college is great. That being said, there are a lot cheaper ways to have fun. And what you really have to ask is, I think that many people, even though they don't do or would never do or wouldn't have even the resources to do what Aunt Becky did, still have that mindset that the degree and the name on the degree is about status. And this is why often people choose colleges that are unaffordable to them, because they would rather have the same degree with a famous name on it rather than what the degree is getting them. And often people are what I call degree poor. I don't know if I made up this term. I think I did, but who knows? Somebody else may have used it before me. There are two terms that I didn't make up called house poor and car poor. Often people driving a fancy car, it doesn't even have to be that fancy, but that they're making a regular payment on, they have a payment commitment on. You would look at that from the outside and you think, man, that person financially is killing it. Driving a nice car, maybe they have bought a nice house. But remember, most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and don't have enough money to cover even a $500 emergency. So what's usually happening beneath the surface, whatever people may drive or live in or post on social media, is that they are struggling financially to feed themselves, clothe themselves, shelter themselves, while they also have a $900 a month car payment to have the look and status of wealth by their car, but they're car poor. Or they bought a house when they weren't ready, and it looks like, man, they're killing it. They have their own home, but there's struggle financially beneath the surface just to maintain the mortgage payment. And so they can be house poor. The category that I've come up with is degree poor. That yes, somebody may have a degree from USC, UCLA, Harvard, Columbia, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, and nothing against having a degree from those places if you can afford it. But the famous name on the degree, the idea is that it will equate status. Now, I've never been asked in a job interview where I went to college. And it never comes up. So the difference of a famous name is minimal in getting you a job. That being said, many people want the status that comes along with attaining a degree from a college with a certain recognized name. But if status is your goal for college, or one of your main goals for college, that's actually fine with me. I think the thinking should change around that. But it's actually fine with me if, this is a big conditional, if you can afford it. If you have enough wealth to pay for USC in cash and you want to go ahead and do that just so that you can have the status of a USC degree if you finish and graduate, then more power to you. No hate from me. However, there's two other things I think that kind of get lost in the focus of why people should be earning degrees, or that these should be the goals that people have in mind. And goal number one should be skills. Because remember Napoleon Dynamite when he talks about skills? You guys maybe don't even know that movie. But anyway, he talks about that girls like guys with skills and stuff. But seriously, skills should be reason number one. Well, these don't have to be in particular order, but these are just in logical order. They're not in order of priority. But reason number one is that the reason for attaining a degree should be that if you don't, in your chosen field, you will not have the skills necessary to be competent. In other words, will the classes that I take in college and the people that I'm going to learn from give me the skills and competence, or at least move me toward competency in the field that I want to do? And sometimes college is necessary for that, and sometimes it's not. So, for example, if you're going to become an engineer, there are certain things that you'll have to learn in college in order to equip you with the skills that you'll need at a baseline to be an engineer. And you may need even more, skills beyond that as you grow in that profession and specialize. So, will number one, pursuing college give me the skills to create value for others in my chosen field so that I can serve others effectively in the field that I enter and create value to them? That's what employers are looking for. They're not looking for your need. They're looking for the value you can create or bring to the table. And that value is determined not by us and how important we think what we bring to the table is, but how our value can serve other people, serve a company, a boss, an employer, or others, or customers, or clients, or other people that we interact with. Will the college degree, the 4 years of those classes, give you the skills necessary to do what you want to do? Let me ask it another way. And this will lead kind of into the second one. If you did not receive a degree at the end of the 4 years, would the skills and things that you learned in college still be worth it? If you went and just took the classes, participated in the assignments, learned the material, whether you received a degree or not, would you be competent in what you have learned? Would it have added the value of knowledge and skills for you to do the job that you want to do and create value for others? Now, that being the case, you guys and I are living in a time now where many of the skills that you can learn to create value for other people do not have to be learned in a college classroom. You can learn to code online. You can learn to become a plumber, an electrician, a mechanic, a welder, all these different types of things, an HVAC mechanic, repair air conditioning and things of that nature. Now, all those things you can't learn online, which will get me to the second one in a minute. However, you can learn all kinds of things online if you are willing to look for it. You can listen to Harvard and Yale lectures online for free. You can look them up on YouTube. You can participate in classes. You can often, under normal circumstances, visit colleges and sit in on the classes. Now, it depends on the professor and the requirements of the school and all that type of thing as well. But I've done that before, gone back to classes that good teachers I've had in the past were teaching, just to refresh myself and learn from someone who didn't have to participate in the class, didn't have to do the homework, but just to learn how they teach. And for me, it was just worth it to sit in on the class, even though I wasn't getting any credit for it. Now the question comes down to college. If the degree were not part of college, but you just took the classes, would the classes equip you with the skills to do what you need to do? Number two, this is the second reason for why you should, if you choose to choose college, this needs to be one of the reasons why. So number one is that it provides you with the skills necessary to do the job, to create value for others so that you can serve them well. Number two is certification. That's often what a degree is. A lot of us would say, okay, well, yeah, I would still need to learn, the skills in college, but I can't do the degree. I can't do the job I plan to do without a degree. I won't get hired without a degree. And that's why this is included. Sometimes you need to get a college degree for certification. You can't be an engineer without a degree. My job as a teacher, I need to have a 4-year bachelor's degree plus a 1-year credential for the state of California. I couldn't do this job unless I could do something involving teaching through more of a business angle, but I couldn't do this job teaching in a public school without a 4-year college degree plus a 1-year teaching credential. So there are many jobs that require the certification of a degree, and maybe even plus degree plus some certification beyond that. And so you have to look into the field you're going into and say, what are the certifications required from college or otherwise? And if you're not pursuing college, you have to do the same thing. You have to look at the skills, certifications necessary to do what you want to do. So if you're going to become an HVAC mechanic or a welder, you're going to need certification and training in both of those things. And so you have to work out the cost, whether you're going to college or not, of what it takes to be competent in those areas. So that's why I say get to the point here of know your numbers. The overall point today is there are some numbers that you guys need to figure out and have an awareness of, and you need to have it written down, and you need to have it on your mind, and you need to have a plan of what your numbers are. What is it going to cost to achieve the skills and certifications I need to do the job that I plan to do in the future? What is it going to cost in terms of money? What is it going to cost in terms of time? What is it going to cost in terms of energy and other resources? So that is how you aim for college. And if you want to have status or something that comes along with that, okay, that's fine. But I think personally we should take status out of the equation. However, I think that should be ranked way lower on your list, and only if you can afford it. That primarily you need to look at, for the job that I want to do in the future, I need two things: skills, certification. Now, how do I get from where I am now? What is the means that will get me to that end, that goal? And it may be college, and it may not be. But either way, you need to know the costs and then run a cost benefit analysis. Meaning, are the costs that I have to give up in order to get that end goal worth the benefit I will receive from that end goal? Are the costs lower than the benefit? Also, you have to do, similarly, a return on investment. You're going to invest. You're not giving up. You are giving it up, but the idea of why you're giving it up is to get something of greater value to you in the future. So you're giving up money, you're giving up time, you're giving up energy and resources in order to reach this goal, and that's called ROI, return on investment. What is, if I did not give these things up in order to get this goal, what would be the difference between not doing it versus doing it? What would be the return from both of those actions, and which one is of greater value to me? So the goal is that on a return on investment, is what you're going to put in going to be worth it, because what you are going to get out of it is of greater ultimate value to you. Then you look at, okay, how much time is that going to take? I'm going to use college as an example. College, on average, 4 years. Okay. You need to know what all 4 years cost. You need to know that number and be able to think about and recite that number. 4 years of college total. All the expenses that you can reasonably think of and calculate: tuition, books, and then the expenses that also go with that. Then, once you figured out the total cost, you look at that number, you have a real number to work with. Then you break it down into 4 years. You say, okay, what is this cost going to be year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4? Now, it may just be divided by 4, but if you do community college or junior college, years 1 and 2 are going to be a lot cheaper than years 3 and 4. And so you factor that in as well. If you do a welding certification, well, maybe it doesn't take 4 years, but you need to know the whole, maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2. But you need to know the total cost and then break it down of what is it going to take to do this. And so, how do you do that? Well, that's where I suggest you use something, if not directly, use this college calculator.